What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am back with the Week 2 team builder of the GBA Season 8, where your Kansas City Giraffe Chiefs are preparing to take on El Scizor and the Borussia Donphan. A really exciting matchup. Been looking forward to playing him for a long time. I've known him for a while in the community too, and just never have had the chance to play him, so really been looking forward to this one. Now, before we jump into this team build, just wanted to bring to your attention, just in case you didn't notice, we're actually going to have more than just the 2 GBA uploads per week. You're going to always see the team builders and the battle uploads on Saturdays and Sundays, but we're also going to try to upload a press conference video. So basically a post battle upload is what that will be. So you might have already seen that. It should have gone up yesterday at this point. So if you haven't seen that, make sure to go check that out. I'll link that down in the description below. Basically it'll just be answering some questions about the battle that just happened, and in this case about my transactions. So we can go ahead and transition into that right away. So we did make some transactions here for this week, in case you haven't seen, and they are some pretty big ones. So we have dropped Zygarde 10% after a stellar performance in Week 1, picking up the 4 kills against Necrostevo. We dropped Zygarde 10 and picked up Aerodactyl instead, which is basically going to become the second stealth rocker of the team, something that I think was really needed. The issue then becomes that Aerodactyl becomes a little bit redundant with Staraptor in terms of its typing and abilities offensively. So Staraptor, our tier 2, then is replaced by Breloom, which replaces the priority options that the Zygarde 10 initially provided. Breloom also having just a lot of really nice matchups, I feel, throughout the entire season. And then because we have lost our momentum gainer in Staraptor, Latios, our tier 1 pick, is also getting replaced with tier 1 Hydreigon. Now, I don't really think Hydreigon is worth a tier 1 pick, and because of that, I really was kind of struggling to convince myself to really go through with this type of transaction. But ultimately, I do think this is the best call for the team. It fills all the roles that I need the team to fulfill. Yeah, I lose a little bit in the speed department. Yeah, I lose a little bit in the power department, but I gain so many vital assets from having these Pokemon that I think it's really beneficial to my team in the long run. So I know some of you people who maybe watched the transactions video disagreed with the trades. I saw that, I read it, and you know what, I can understand where you're coming from, but I just ask that you trust that I do know what I'm doing with these trades. They are filling very key roles on my draft that I really felt like I needed in my divisional matchups, as well as roles that I needed in all of my matchups throughout the season, which makes these Pokemon valuable for my team, even if at face value they aren't, in your opinion, as good as the ones that were dropped. So just my little bit of information I wanted to put out there for the transactions. Now let's jump on into this video. So my opponent Lars has access to Mega Manectric, Tornadus Eye, Gengar, Cobalion, Delphox, Kyurem Black, Crocodile, Tapu Fini, Garbodor, Komala, and Lurantis on his draft for this season of the GBA. Very scary draft, one of the more highly rated drafts, I believe, in the preseason, and he actually just made a few transactions himself, so it's not the exact same draft that he had at the beginning, but it's still really threatening nonetheless. Fortunately for me, before he made those excuse me. Unfortunately for me, before he made those transactions, he actually didn't have an electric or fire type, so Celesteela really destroyed him. But yeah, he made some good transactions to make sure that wasn't quite going to be the case, but Celesteela is still really fantastic against him, quite honestly. So yes, Celesteela just naturally matches up very well against what he has. So just a few things to talk about on his team. First and foremost, this is a divisional matchup, so I play him twice throughout the season. So that makes this team builder tricky, because I do not want to give away all of my secrets and strategies in this team builder like I normally would if it was someone who was not in my division. So this might seem like it's in a little bit less depth than what you saw in Week 1, and in less depth than what you will see in the vast majority of my non-divisional team builders. But that's the reasoning why, if it comes across that way to you. So this is a divisional matchup, but it's still a very, very important matchup, so I need to prepare a very good team, especially because I want to have a strong start in the GBA. You know, it's nice being like the new guy around town trying to start things off strong, so that's what we're going for here, and it's going to be pretty exciting game too. So yeah, so he's got some threatening mods. It's a pretty offensive build overall that he has going on here, but the fact remains that it's kind of a one-dimensional draft. Okay, now I'm not saying that in the sense that individual Mons are one-dimensional, because that's not really the case. He has a lot of coverage options with his team. He has a lot of really good offensive options on his team, but it's still a very offensive draft, and it's not easy for him to run a balanced team. He can run bulky offense if he wants to, but even then, it's only going to be kind of bulky offense. He has stuff like Cobalion, which I love on bulky offense builds. Tapu Finney's pretty good on bulky offense as well. Crocodile's another example, and Kyurem Black. But aside from those 4 Pokemon, nothing really strikes me as something that could resemble a wall on a balanced team. So in general, his team is going to be more offensive, and in general, his threatening Pokemon are all fast. Okay, the only real exception being, no, that's it. Like, all of his threatened Pokemon are fast. So that makes speed control a very important thing to consider in preparing for this matchup. Okay, so in preparing my team for this, I have to keep speed control in mind, because otherwise he'll be able to run me over with his offense, and that's simply not something I'm going to allow to happen. Okay, so that's probably the biggest point that I want to get across here from this team build. Like I said before, I'm trying to teach through my team builders. In a matchup like this, where my opponent's most threatening Pokemon are all the fastest Pokemon in the matchup, and a lot of them are even faster than the majority of my Mons, that makes speed control very important. His team is offensive, speed control beats offense. That's what I'm going to try to go with here for this matchup. Now, in terms of my own strategy here in this matchup for this team that I'm building, the center point that I am focusing on is Tapu Fini. Okay, because the fact that I have Hydreigon on my team now forces him to bring Tapu Fini. Okay, if he doesn't bring Tapu Fini and I bring Hydreigon, he's in for a very long game. Okay, Hydreigon just murders him otherwise. So he is forced to bring Tapu Fini, but that doesn't mean I don't want to bring Hydreigon. No. That means I want to bring Hydreigon, because Hydreigon has access to U-turn, which means that Hydreigon can force in Tapu Fini, U-turn on that switch, and then I can abuse that switch in with my own offense. Okay, so that's the kind of strategy that I'm going to try to use here for this matchup, and if I bring Pokemon that can really abuse that switch in to the Tapu Fini off of the U-turn, then I feel like it can be in a good position here in this match. It all comes down to momentum in this type of game, where he is very offensive. I'm trying to combat that offense, basically playing hyper offense, or hyper defense is what I like to call it, to combat this type of hyper offensive draft. I need to be able to dictate the flow of the match, and that's what Hydreigon can do by forcing in the Tapu Fini, so that I can bring in a breaker and get my kill every single time something like that happens. The other way to dictate the pace of a hyper offensive match is through speed control, which I'm going to do through my build. So let me go ahead and jump on over to the team I'm deciding to bring here, and we're going to start this off with the Hydreigon. Now, Hydreigon is going to be choice scarfed. I want to be able to outspeed the vast majority of his team, and my base 98 speed tier really doesn't quite cut it. I didn't feel against his very large amount of Mons that have a higher base stat than 98. So choice scarf was the logical choice here, and like I said, of course it's going to have U-turn, because the goal of this Hydreigon is to force in the Tapu Fini. That's the game plan. I want to force in the Tapu Fini so that I can U-turn into a breaker and take advantage of it. Now, I also have Earth Power, because most of his team is hit neutrally by Earth Power at worst, and a lot of his scariest offensive threats, like stuff like the Gengar, stuff like the Mega Manectric, stuff like the Delphox, those are hit super effectively by Earth Power as well. So Earth Power becomes a very spammable option late game. I didn't even mention Cobalion, that's another one too. Dark Pulse is really good against pretty much his entire team except for Cobalion and Tapu Fini, and I guess Crocodile as well, but Croc really isn't a switch into Hydreigon because it doesn't do much back to me, and it always has to fear a U-turn or a Dragon move as well coming from me, which is why I also have the Draco Meteor, which will help me have an additional way to offensively check a Kyurem Black. Even if he's choice scarfed Kyurem Black, I'll be able to outspeed that with this set and potentially nuke it with the Draco Meteor. Now, one thing I do have to be careful about, though, is the fact that Misty Terrain from the Tapu Fini is going to weaken my Draco Meteors regardless of the fact that I am levitating, so I need to keep that in mind and only click Draco Meteor if I'm sure it's going to be able to kill through the Misty Terrain. Now, to be able to best abuse the fact that Hydreigon forces in Tapu Fini, there's one Pokemon on my team that probably abuses that better than anything else, and that is Mega Venusaur. Now, I'm going to go ahead and point out the elephant in the room right now. There is Nature Power on this Mega Venusaur, because under Misty Terrain, any sane player, I think, especially early in the game, which is when I want this initial sequence to happen, any sane player will go straight into their Kyurem Black on this. Okay, straight into Kieran Black on the Mega Venusaur. There's Misty Terrain up. They don't have to fear a Toxic. They don't have to fear Sleep Powder. The worst case scenario from the mindset of a standard player, the average player, is going to be this Mega Venusaur is going to click Sludge Bomb. And if that Kieran Black has any bulk investment whatsoever, like it's not, even if, as long as it's not like a minus special defensive nature Kieran Black, which I simply don't expect. I think if it brings mixed Kieran Black, it's going to be minus defense so that it can switch into Mega Venusaur better. That just logically makes sense to me. Any average player is going to switch their Kieran Black into the Mega Venusaur in the situation of Mega Venusaur versus Tapu Fini. So I wanted to bring Nature Power because under Misty Terrain, Nature Power is converted to Moonblast, and because of my modest nature and nearly max special attack investment, this means I'm going to be able to dish off a chunk of damage against the Kieran Black. It does, if it's like a max HP Kieran Black, it does well over half. And basically the game plan with this then is that I want to spam Nature Power against the Kieran Black as soon as he switches it in, because I predict that Kieran Black, before even going into the battle, I predict that Kieran Black is going to spam Roost. Okay, as soon as it sees the Nature Power from me, unless it's like a very offensive Kieran Black, if the damage roll tells me it's very offensive and might not have Roost, I might not make that play. But if it's a bulk invested Kieran Black, I expect him to try to Roost stall out the Misty Terrain so that he will be able to eventually take Sludge Bombs later on instead of the Moonblasts, as Nature Power wouldn't be able to be Moonblast obviously outside of the Misty Terrain. So that's why my game plan is to spam Nature Power until the Misty Terrain wears off and then Toxic. Okay, because that's why I have Toxic on this set, to Toxic the Kieran Black. As soon as the Kieran Black is Toxic, the rest of my team is able to deal with it much more effectively, especially my Seismitoad as my bulky water, which I'll show here in just a little bit. So, yeah, just a really solid option against his team, able to really abuse that core of Tapu Fini Kieran Black that he decided to build his draft around. And then I also just have the Giga Drain as well as my recovery option, just because his draft has a lot of taunt. I didn't really feel like it was worth it to bring Synthesis for this specific matchup. I might in the rematch, but for this specific matchup, I decided to go with Giga Drain instead as a more offensive means of getting recovery on my Venusaur, because I really think Taunt Nature's Madness Tapu Fini is a likely set, and he would most likely taunt my Mega Venusaur in a situation where I'm low health. I'd rather just recover my health back while doing damage to the Tapu Fini, since the more I can wear down the Tapu Fini, the more likely it is for my Scarfed Hydreigon to be able to win late in the game. So that's the idea behind the initial core. Now things get a little bit hot. So next up is my second choice Scarfer. That's a Gardevoir. Okay, nothing too special here. I brought Choice Scarf Gardevoir last week. I brought Double Scarf last week as well. Not a huge deal. Pretty cool set, pretty straightforward set, quite honestly. It's max special attack, max speed. The max speed is because this allows me to outpace an Adamant Crocodile. Choice Scarf, I don't think he's going to bring Choice Scarf Crocodile, but I still thought it was in my best interest to go ahead and outspeed an Adamant max speed. If it's Jolly max speed, a lot of my mons are able to take hits from it very well anyways, and I just don't think it's a smart bring when I can easily bring an Autotomy Celesteela to abuse a Choice locked Crocodile. So even so, I'm bringing max speed just in case. I'm bringing Dual Stab because Moonblast is very spammable against his team. The only resists he has to Fairy types are the Gengar, the Garbodor, and the Delphox. This is able to hit all of them super effectively. So yeah, just a really solid mon against this team. It's a solid late game win condition as well if I'm just able to weaken down those limited checks to Scarfed Gardevoir. So you can see this theme here with speed control, trying to abuse that switch into the Kieran Black and having ways to outspeed a lot of his offense. Both of these Pokemon, both my Scarfers, the Hydreigon and the Gardevoir, are able to outspeed a Mega Manectric, which is really clutch because he's bringing Mega Manectric for Celesteela, like guaranteed. So that's really cool. But you know what? Like I said, this is going to be a little bit of a hot team, and no better way to make it hotter than with the fire type. No pun intended, but it worked out pretty well. But regardless, we're bringing a Choice Scarfed Arcanine as well. Triple Scarf for this week of the GBA against El Scizor, and this promises to be a really interesting team to bring, because I think it's actually really good. It's going to catch him off guard. Like no one predicts Triple Scarf. Okay, nobody. And especially in prep, but even in the game you're not going to predict Triple Scarf, especially if I'm able to conceal it until late game, which is what my game plan is with these Pokemon. If I can conceal one of my 3 Choice Scarfs until late game, I think that last Choice Scarf user will be able to sweep through the remainder of his team. That's the game plan I'm going for, and it's only really going to work out if I'm able to get the Kyurem Black weakened by the Mega Venusaur with the Toxic on it, getting it chipped down, because this thing really needs that Kyurem Black chipped. The Hydreigon really wants Kyurem Black chipped as well, so that I don't have to spam a Dragon move and instead can just spam a Ground move or a Dark move against it. So yeah, just a really good mon. The coverage here, pretty much just all the coverage moves Arcanine had available on the physical side. So yeah, I don't really need to go into too much detail on that, I don't think. Crunch for the Delphox, Flare Blitz is spammable, Wild Charge for the Tapu Fini, and Close Combat was for the, I think, Crocodile and the Komala were the 2 big ones, just so that I don't take like recoil damage during the process. So yeah, just a really scary core, this Triple Scarf core against this team. When this team is so offensive and weak to speed control, that's what I opted to go with here for this matchup. Now I'm running a lot of bulk on this to be able to take hits a little better from Delphox and from the Tornadus Eye as well. There was a little bit of extra bulk on the Hydreigon for a similar reason earlier, which I'll show briefly. So, 60 HP investment on the Hydreigon, so I could take hits a little better from Torn Eye. So, yeah, just a solid mon against him overall. And yeah, it's able to basically sweep his team, depending on what he brings. If I can weaken the Tapu Fini, which is the game plan with these triple Scarfers. The Hydreigon really can't weaken Tapu Fini, but the Gardevoir can. He doesn't really have switch-ins to Gardevoir, so I think that Tapu Fini could get whittled by Gardevoir pretty easily. And this can also fire off a nice powerful Wild Charge against that if I really need to as well. Now, next up is forming a little bit more of a defensive backbone, but also kind of a scary threat against this team too. That is, once again, Autotomize Celesteela with Z Metal Sound, or Z Flash Cannon, or Z Autotomize, whatever I need to do. He has a lot of taunt on his team, so Steelium Z is just really good here, okay? I can run Z Autotomize if I am taunted and really need the speed boost to be able to win the game. That's one thing, because a Z move, a support Z move bypasses taunt, so that could come in clutch. Secondly, Steelium Z boosted Flash Cannon turns into Corkscrew Crash, obviously, which does a number to his entire team. His only Steel resists on his entire team are weak to ground, which I believe I already said earlier. If not, guess what? That's the case. So I'm able to do a lot of damage with the combination of Flash Cannon plus HP and ground, and basically this mon alone is able to beat fat Pokemon with Metal Sound, it's able to beat fast Pokemon with Autotomize, and it's able to just break down anything with a combination of Flash Cannon and HP Ground. Celesteela does it all. Celesteela is incredible, okay? I freaking love this thing. But yeah, Celesteela is going to put in a lot of work in this game, probably. Most likely its role is going to be more so as a breaker instead of a sweeper. It all comes down to what he does for his own speed control. If he has a way to outspeed Autotomize Celesteela at +2, then this is probably not going to be what wins the game for me, but instead it's going to be a way to chip down things like Delphox, to chip down things like Mega Manectric, just to chip down whatever his switch-ins might be. Maybe Cobalion an option if he brings like Thunderwave Cobalion. That's something I could definitely see coming. If I'm able to chip that down with a Hidden Power Ground, that really helps out my Gardevoir late game, helps out my Arcanine, helps out my Hydreigon, etc. Helps out the Scarfers for this to be able to chip down whatever the responses are. Now I do have, let's see, anything I really want to say about the EV spread. The 24 EVs in Spadef plus the 244 HP allows me to guarantee take a hit from Manectric, which is pretty insane, but yeah, Celesteela is really fat even if it's not too specially defensive invested. But yeah, just a really good mon against his team overall. And finally, we have the Seismitoad, more specially defensive as well, with enough attack investment to always break the sub of a Kyurem Black with Earthquake. Now, I have Protect on this set as well to make sure I can scout out Choice Scarfers. I think that at least one Choice Scarfer is very likely against this team, and if that is a Delphox, it would be really nice to be able to scout what he locks himself into, since Delphox has the coverage to do a lot of damage against my team, and I want to be able to react safely and appropriately with my switch-ins. Basically, this team has the appropriate synergy to be able to take hits from literally any Choice Scarfer on his team, but I want to be able to do that as safely as possible, and having Protect on this Pokemon is really nice for that purpose. It's also nice to be able to rack up toxic damage on the Kyurem Black after I get the Toxic on it with Mega Venusaur. Now I also have Knockoff on this one to help out with getting rid of Life Orb or leftovers on the Kyurem Black, but more importantly, to get rid of the leftovers on the Tapu Fini, as that definitely could come in handy as well. Special defense investment to allow me to take hits from the Kyurem Black. as well as I need to in order to be able to get it whittled into the range of the Pokemon I need it to get it whittled into range of. So that's the team. Really exciting team to use, I think, with the Triple Scarf and then the the Nature Power Mega Venusaur. Just really cool techs I'm excited to whip out here for this week against the Borussia Donphan. But yeah, let me know what you think about the team in the comments below. I hope you guys are looking forward to the battle, which will be coming out tomorrow. I believe it'll be coming out at about 2 p.m. EST, so that's 1 p.m. CST for you people who live in the middle of the country like me. So be on the lookout for that, and I will see you all next time. Peace.